All right, hi guys. We are going to get started on in our Unit 1. You should have this Unit 1 booklet by now. If not, I will get it to you your first day in class. So we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we get started, you should have done the bell work already. If you haven't done the bell work, pause this, go do the bell work, and then come back. Okay? So let's get started here with lesson 1, which is exploring number tricks. And I'm going to share my document camera with you where I will be doing some notes. And you can go ahead and open your notebook to the first page. Let's go ahead and date that first page. Okay, so let's pretend that this is your notebook. We will date this first page. I don't know what day you're seeing this recording, but I'm gonna put 8/28/2020. That's today's date. We are in lesson 1, which is exploring number tricks. Okay, can we see that? Let me zoom in here. Okay, lesson 1, exploring number tricks. So the first thing I want you to do is think of a number zero through 10. Okay, pick some number 0 through 10. And I'm not going to write anything right now. I'm just going to tell you what to do here. So pick a number 0 through 10. Okay, hopefully you have the number. And here's what I want you to do with that number. So take that number and add 5 to it. You can use this down here as some scrap paper if you'd like. Okay, so you've added 5. And now I want you to double that new number. So after you added the 5, I want you to double that new number. Okay, now subtract 2 from that number. Your new number now, I want you to cut it in half. You got to cut it in half? Okay, subtract your original number. So you're going to take away the very first number that you picked. Now I'm going to try to figure out what number you have right now. Okay, so if you got lost here, let me go through the steps again. So you picked a number 1 through 10. Let me just walk you through it here. So I'm going to pick a number 0 through 10. I'm going to pick 3. Okay, so then I said add 5 to that number. So 3 plus 5 is 8. Okay, then I said double that number, which means times 2. So I get 16. And then I said subtract 2. So you get 14. And then I said cut this number in half. So divided by 2, which is 7. And then I said subtract your original number. So my original number was 3. So I'm going to take 7 minus 3, which is 4. Now, my guess is that everybody has 4. Okay, and this is what we call a number trick. Okay, it's a way to manipulate numbers so that we can tell what's at the end. You'll see this kind of stuff on magic shows all the time. Okay, they tell you to pick a certain card or pick a certain shape and move things around, and then they can tell you which one that you land on. So we can all make up our own number tricks. Okay, and how we're going to do that is we're going to walk through this diagram here and kind of outline what this looks like if I were to just draw a picture. Okay, So the first thing that we did was think of a number. Now, you can use anything to represent that number. A lot of times in algebra, we'll use a letter or a variable, which are the same thing. So just some object. In this case, our workbook uses a bucket. Okay, so we're going to draw a bucket. So I like to draw the ellipse and then the two sides and then the bottom. So this was the bucket, okay? And then I'm just gonna put, in this column right here, I'm gonna write my numbers as we go. So we're just gonna put Mr. Jones here, okay? And I know you don't have this page, but you can put it here in your notes if you would like. If you ever need to pause this video because I'm going too fast and you can't write it down, just go ahead and pause and then catch up and then hit play again, okay? So we picked a number. That represents this bucket. Everybody probably had a different number, and that's fine. That represents any number that you picked. The next thing we did was we added 5. Now, 5 is a specific number, so it can't be represented with a bucket, but I still have that bucket. And I added 5 things to it. So we're going to represent the 5 with just circles or marbles or dots, whatever you want to use. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, oops, I forgot to fill this out. So my number was 3. Okay, that's what the bucket represented. Then I added 5 to that 3 and got 8. Okay, and then our next step was multiply by 2. So we're actually taking this whole thing and multiplying it by 2. So if I take one bucket and multiply it by 2, now I actually have 2 buckets. So there's 1 bucket, there's 2 buckets, and instead of 5 dots, now I'm going to have 10 dots. So you can kind of see my picture just doubled. Okay, and now there's 16 things. So I got 10 dots, and each bucket represents 3. So 3 and 3 is 6, total of 16. The next thing I had you do was subtract 2. Now, we're not subtracting 2 buckets. We're actually just going to take away 2 of the marbles. Now, it doesn't matter what 2 you get rid of, but I'm just going to get rid of these top 2 right here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoop. So I've got 8 marbles left, and 16 minus the 2 was 14. Okay. The next one was divide that in half. So now, divide by 2. So now we're going to take all of this and divide it in half. So I have 2 buckets. If I divide that in half, I only have 1 bucket. Okay. And I had 8 dots here. If I divide that in half, I only have 4 dots. So, and then 14 divided by 2 now becomes 7. And the last step was subtract original number. That's a symbol for a number, which the original number represented my bucket. So if I have a bucket and 4 dots, but have to take away the original number, which was my bucket, now I just have 4 dots. Okay, let's say you picked a different number. Okay, let's say you picked, I don't know, maybe 7. You picked 7 as your number. 7 now represents that bucket. So you're going to add 5 to it. So you get 12. Then you're going to multiply it by 2. So you get 24. And we can still represent this by buckets. Okay, so you got 7 here and 5 makes your 12. You're going to double it. So you got 7, 7, and 10, 24. You're going to subtract 2, which is 22. So you got 7, 7, and 8. Divide by 2. 22 divided by 2 is 11. Okay, but then you got to subtract your original number, which was 7. 11 minus 7 is still just 4. So no matter what number you pick at the beginning, it's still going to be 4. Okay, so let us open our workbook here. Let us open our workbook here. And we're going to start on page 3 here with the important stuff. It says fill in the empty cells in the table. Okay, so think of a number, you got a bucket, and then 3. You got 3 people up here with their numbers. And we're going to fill it in. Pictures keep track of what you know. Okay, and I believe this is exactly what we were doing up here, okay, on this sheet. So your picture should match this sheet here. Okay, so you can kind of go ahead and start filling this workbook out. Okay, so subtract 2, so I took away 2 marbles. So I still have my cup or my buckets. So if I take 2 dots away, then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to draw it kind of how I did on the other page. Okay, there's 8. And then divide it by 2, so I only have 1 cup now. And I only have 4 circles. Okay, and subtract your original number, which was the bucket. So now you only have 4 circles. Oh, that's kind of hard for you to read, huh? Okay, so, well, Ian picked the same number I did. So he went from 3, added 5, he got 8. You're going to multiply that by 2, which was 16. You're going to subtract 2, which is 14. You're going to divide that by 2, which is 7. And then subtract your original number, which was 3. So then you're left with 4. She picked the same numbers I did again. So you got 12, 24, 22, 11, and 4. Now here, they've kind of started us in the middle. Okay, we're going to have to fill in the rest of these numbers. Okay, so had 14 and then subtracted 2 to get 12. You take 12 and divide it by 2, you get 6. And we know that you had to subtract the original number to get 4. So what does that make the original number? Well, what did you subtract? How do you go from 6 minus some number equals 4? That number would be 2, which represents your original number. So this up here becomes a 2. Then it says add 5. So 5, 6, 7. 7 multiplied by 2 is 14, and we've completed that sequence there. Okay, and it says let's take a look at this thinking out loud. Okay, so we got a couple people here doing this. Okay, one says, how can we subtract Jacob's original number? We don't know what his original number is. And one says, well, the table that Jacob got 14 when the picture was this. 2 buckets, 10 dots. So 2 buckets plus 10 is 14. And then they draw that out. Okay. So I can see 10 of Jacob's 14. So the remaining 4 must be split between those 2 buckets. See, it said 14. but there are 10 dots here. So you got to take 14 minus the 10 dots. Okay, so gets it 4. And then they say, oh, so the 2 buckets equals 4. So the original number must be 2 because you got to divide that in half. This is kind of like the flour problem that we had the other day, and you got to figure out what they represent. So I found Jacob's number differently. I went backwards. He got 14 after multiplying by 2. So he must have been thinking of number 7. And then he got 7 by adding 5. So either way, he started with 2. And we actually did this Jacob's column a little bit differently. Okay, so it doesn't really matter your process here. It just matters that you're making sure you have concrete math to back it up. Okay, so let's look at this. If Damien got 22 when the picture was this, what was his original number? Okay, I'm gonna walk you through these down here. Okay, so if Damien got 22 when he got this, what was his original number? What was 1 bucket? Well, this whole thing equaled 22. How many dots are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 dots. So if I take away those 10 dots here, I'm only going to have 12. And if 2 buckets equals 12, because that's 22 minus 10, then 1 bucket, you got to divide this by 2, is going to equal 6. Okay. If 2 buckets is 16, what is 1 bucket? Well, 2 buckets is 16, so divide that in half, and you get 8. If 2 buckets and 4 dots equaled 18, what is 1 bucket? Well, you got to get rid of these 4 here, so get rid of 4 there, so you get 14 equaled your 2 buckets. And then to get 1 bucket, you divide them in half. So 14 divided in half is 7. This is algebra, okay? We're just representing it with different symbols, okay? So these are some, on the next page, 5 through 12. You got 5 through 12 here. Those are different problems, okay? So I'm going to let you work these out on your own. Okay, work them all out on your own. Go ahead and pause the video, work them out on your own, and then we will come back to it. Okay, there may be a quiz on this. All right, so I may say, you know, on page 4, what is the answer to number 9? And then whatever you get here, you put it there. Okay, this will probably be titled Lesson 1 Quiz. Okay, so there's some other questions I want to ask you here. And that's, what if we start with 100 or 2.5 or 1,000,000 or -5? Will this same trick, will this same process work out if you start with a different number? What if we start with 2.5? Can you still do the same stuff and end up with 4 with 2.5? Try it. See what you get. What if I want to, instead of ending with this number, what if I want you to end with your original number, your bucket? Could I change these to have you end up with your bucket? The answer is yes. Okay, could I represent this problem down here? Number 4. Could I represent that a different way? Instead of buckets and dots, could I use something else, like equations or something like that? All right. Some other questions to think about. If you have a trick that ends with the same number every time, okay? So meaning everybody picks different numbers to start with, but then everybody ends with a different number. What would this last picture look like? What would this last picture look like if everybody ended in the same number? You're right, it would be a bunch of marbles. What if everybody ended with a different number or with the number that they started with? Okay, you start with the bucket, you go through here and you end with the number you started with. This picture down here would be the bucket. Okay. All right. Now, pause this video, work through some of this, okay? Work through this and see what you get. When you're done, you can hit unpause and we will go through a few more things. Make sure you hit pause. Okay, let's just talk about some of the things that make you think here. Okay, so this one's making you think a little bit more. Okay, so you see they've got a step out here, missing pictures and missing here. So let's work through this one. Okay, so think of a number. Okay, got our bucket. Add 2. There you got 2 marbles. Multiply by 3. So you're going to take this whole thing and times 3. So instead of 1 bucket, now I have 3 buckets. And instead of 2 marbles, I have 3 times that. So there's 1, 2, 3 times that. Subtract your original number. So we're just subtracting a bucket. So now I've got 2 buckets, and my buckets are looking a little off. So I get rid of that bucket. I still have 6 dots. Okay, so then I got to fill in this next step. Well, I went from 2 buckets to 1 bucket, and I went from 6 dots to 3 dots. What causes you to go from 2 to 1 or 6 to 3? You can also look over here. They went from 20 to 10. What kind of action does that? If you guessed it, it's a divide by 2. Okay, so you're dividing everything by 2. And then subtract your original number. Well, that's getting rid of the bucket. So now you got 3 dots. Okay, see, they ended in 3. So let's fill out these 3 people on what they got. So think of a number, 2. Add 2, 4. Multiply by 3. Well, 4 times 3 is 12. Subtract your original number. So 12 minus 2 is 10. Okay, and then divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then subtract your original number, which was 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. Look, I got 3 dots there. Okay, let's start at the beginning here. I don't know this number, but I know that once I add 2, I get 12. Well, what number plus 2 gives you 12? 10. Okay, so they added 2, got that. Multiplied by 3, got 36. Subtract your original number. So 36 minus 10, need to write it down. You can do that. That's okay. 36 minus 10 is 26. Divided by 2 is 13. Subtract your original number, you get 3. Okay. Now, this one up over here is a little more difficult. We start way down here. Okay. So you had 10, divide by 2. Well, instead of divide, we're going the opposite way. So instead of dividing by 2, now we're going to multiply by 2. So 10 times 2 is 20. Okay. Subtract the original number. Well, I don't know what my original number is, do I? Okay. So I can't go that direction. I can't add that original number. So let's go this way. I know my ending number must be 3. And to go from here to here, I subtract the original number. Well, 10 minus what gives you 3? If you get 7, you're right. 7. So that's the original number. Okay, let's play it all out and see if it works. So 7 add 2, that's 9. 9 multiplied by 3 is 27. Subtract your original number. 27 minus 7 is 20, and we work it out. Okay? So a little bit tougher there, but not too bad. Let's look at 14 here. If you got 15 when the picture was this, what's the original number? What is the bucket? Well, again, like before, this equals 15. I got 5 dots. Well, if I take away 5 here, I got to take away 5 here, and I get 10. So 2 buckets equals 10. So what does 1 bucket equal? That's right, it's 5. Okay, so go ahead and work through this. Don't forget the tough stuff part. Okay, match each picture of the trick with the set of instructions on the right. Okay, so let's just do 20 here. So you got 4 buckets, okay, and then 3 dots. So think of a number, multiply by 3, add 4. Is that what happened to get this? Think of a number, multiply by 4, then add 3. Is that what happened to this? Remember, your original number is a bucket. Okay? Did you multiply this by 3 and then add 4? Did you multiply it by 4 and then add 3? Did you add 4 and then multiply it by 3? Or did you add 3 and then multiply by 4? Well, I have 4 buckets here, but I don't even have 4 dots here. So I know that I had to multiply here before I added. So I multiplied by 4 and then added 3 dots. So this is actually B. Okay? All right, we're going to stop there. I want you to go ahead and finish this up. Okay? If you got questions, don't forget you can join the tutoring sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays via the Zoom link on Canvas, or you can always ask questions in class. All right? Good luck with that first lesson.